Hello everyone, my name is Yasmin Kanemet. I am the Future Skills Lead on the Microsoft Australia Education team. Welcome to Skills Pathways for Secondary Students, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Wallumattagal people, traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. We encourage you to ask questions via the Q&A chat function, and we will all answer them throughout the sessions. Sessions are recorded, so post questions anonymously if you don't want to share your name. Recordings of the sessions will be made available after the event on our YouTube channel. Let me start by laying out the goals of this session and just making a few opening comments. At Microsoft, we're passionate about closing the digital skills gap and helping people flourish in a primarily digital economy. We're not alone in this goal, and it's going to take all of us in every sector and every corner of the world to close it. The prospect of not closing the digital skills gap and not properly preparing future generations for the world of work is simply not an option. I hope you've joined this session because you share this belief and you're looking for ways to make a positive impact. We all need you to. We also need to have a sense of urgency about this. Our Microsoft CEO, Satya Nadella, very insightfully pointed out back in June that we've seen 2 years of digital transformation in 2 months. If we thought things were moving fast pre-COVID, we're now moving at speeds none of us could have imagined. During this session, I'll be joined by a couple of my colleagues who I'll introduce as we go. And by the end of our time together today, I really hope that we've been able to make the case for closing the digital skills gap crystal clear, and that we've shown you a few practical ways that you can bring digital skills training to your secondary students with an emphasis on productivity and cloud skills, which have been in even greater demand than usual as a result of the pandemic. So let's get started. You've probably all seen various data points about how the demand for skills is shifting. This modelling from McKinsey very clearly shows the shift from physical, manual, basic cognitive skills towards softer skills, but most dramatically toward technology skills. I've chosen this view because it really brings home where the predominant demand for skills will reside in the not too distant future. Your students will be embarking on their careers during the next 5 to 10 years, probably sooner, and the shift will already have happened and is happening now, and they will need to be prepared. There's another point I want to make about this shift to technology skills as well, and that is it won't all be to technology jobs. Every job will already does require some level of technology skill. We can't view the shift just in terms of pure technology roles, because that would be to overlook the very large number of jobs that will require what I call conversational technology, needing to understand technology concepts and data in order to communicate in the workplace, even though the role itself may not be making or managing technology solutions. So enough said about the gap. I know that there's a lot of focus on this, from government through the media, through every organisation. So I think it's well understood. So let's talk about what we can do about it. At Microsoft, we think about preparing students for future jobs as a progression or a continuum that can start at any age. But obviously, the earlier we start, the better. It can start with sparking curiosity in STEM and the possibilities that technology such as AI can bring to improve people's lives and protect the planet. We have a fantastic challenge called Imagine Cup Junior to help with this, and I'll talk about that right at the end of the session, so it's top of mind. It can move to building industry relevant skills in high school and higher education, and simultaneously evolving curriculum at all levels of education to reflect the shifting demand for skills that can and must be demonstrated to employers in the future. Taken together, all of this creates a skills culture. It's an important overlay today that I think eventually has to be woven into the fabric of teaching and learning in a seamless way. A skills culture is also incredibly important for establishing a mindset about continuous improvement, that learning never ends throughout our lives, and is an important element of keeping us in work and in demand. Future skills don't have an end date. We must keep learning in order to thrive in future jobs. and we must develop this mindset in students to build their resilience and capacity for change, which is in itself intrinsic to technology. So what are the future skills that we're talking about? In this view, I've tried to lay out the most in-demand digital skills that we can think about developing at each educational stage. None of this is fixed, aside from possibly the highly technical roles, but even then, students could become interested in these at any age, and we should encourage that and encourage the pathways toward those roles. You can see that what we're calling modern skills, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, computational thinking, are relevant through every stage of education, and the same applies to digital literacy. From about late primary school to early high school and beyond, we do believe that students should be learning and keeping pace with digital productivity skills. We've never seen a better use case for this than the pandemic. Every person I speak to has felt their own gap in digital productivity starting in March this year, and we've all been scrambling to close the gap. Already we've seen those around us who are more competent in digital skills flourish. We've all leaned on them and learned from them, and they've been noticed, and they're probably the colleagues and friends that will be promoted, and deservedly so. So digital productivity is absolutely essential for us all, regardless of how technical our roles are or aren't. As we move further along the educational journey, there are many other digital skills and concepts that will be important in future jobs. Technology ethics and data, programming and design thinking, cloud skills, all of these will come into play in future careers. And then, of course, we have the more technical role-based skills, which are in high demand today and will continue to be in ever increasing numbers. In this next view, I've overlaid the ways in which Microsoft can help develop future-ready students and skills. You know us as a technology innovator and enabler of great human achievement, but you may not know us for all the rich programs and learning pathways we have that can help attain knowledge and certifications that can demonstrate proficiency to an employer. In primary school, we provide a lot of great programs and curriculum to spark curiosity. Minecraft, Education Edition and MakeCode have become staples in most classrooms. Learning digital skills by immersion and doing is really critical in stimulating young minds. I know nobody knows that better than all of you. In secondary school and higher education, we provide learning paths and curriculum that can lead to a Microsoft Office certification or an in-demand Azure Fundamental certification, to name just two. In higher education, we also provide learning paths and curriculum for a myriad of in-demand role-based certifications. Students can literally graduate with skills that employers will instantly recognise and value, and that can set them up to start contributing from day one. We're increasingly hearing employers say that they prefer Microsoft certified graduates because they either don't have the time or the money to train and certify them. So it does impact their recruiting decisions. We don't have time to go through all of these resources in detail today, and we will touch on a couple of them shortly. But before we do that, I really want to take a moment to illustrate the importance of a certification. Yesterday, I searched on the terms Microsoft Office across all of Australia on LinkedIn. Right now, there are over 4,000 available jobs just on LinkedIn, one search recruiting engine that explicitly call for Microsoft Office skills. So aside from anything else, Microsoft Office is an in-demand skill. Additionally, a bot will crawl every resume submitted and create a match with those search terms for each of these jobs. The resume that contains those search terms will rise to the top. Anyone who can actually prove that skill with a certification will rise to the top even more. Recruiting is at its core a process of elimination until the perfect skills match is found. And certifications do matter to employers in this context, but they also matter to students. Students who have attained our certifications have told us that they're an instant confidence boost during interviews. They demonstrate not just proficiency in the skill, but also a learning and growth mindset. certifications require effort, and employers like candidates who've shown that they can go above and beyond. So, they're also stories. Certifications are stories and experience in their own right. Students need these stories and examples of competence when they're embarking on their career paths. They need to stand out and they need to compete. Hot off the press just today, there was a new website launched by the federal government called Your Career. It's very comprehensive and I encourage you all to get to know it. Just fantastic information and resources that I know will be important for students as they're navigating their career choices and figuring out what skills they need. And I don't have time to show you much of this site, but just as I was looking through it this morning, I typed in, software engineer to see what was there, and scroll down, and there are the skills that most employers are looking for, and you'll see the Microsoft reference right there. So really important for students to be familiar with these technologies, and better still to become certified and be able to demonstrate them. Nobody knows the value of certifications better than our partner, Prodigy Learning. They work exclusively with schools and higher education providers across Australia, Ireland, the UK and the US to prepare and certify thousands of students in Microsoft skills each year. So I've asked Emma Henderson from Prodigy Learning to show you how simple it is to adopt a learning pathway and certification into a course, so that if you wanted to, you could introduce your students to some of these courses and certifications, and they can benefit directly while they're still at school, TAFE or university. Today we're going to use a Microsoft Office as an example, but it could be any one of our certifications such as Azure Fundamentals or Power Platform Fundamentals, and all the rest of them. So with that, welcome Emma, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Yasminka. So these are the two Microsoft certification paths that we have. The left triangle here is our productivity stack, and probably the most important one, not only in Australia, but across the globe. And this includes certifications in the Office suite of products that you can see here, so Word, Excel, Outlook, and the other ones listed. And that is called the Microsoft Office Specialist Program. So what that is an industry recognized certifications program that provides students with these industry leading assessment of skills and knowledge through project-based testing. So it really gives students, real world exercises to complete, and it appraises their understanding of the Office products. So when students go through and complete these certifications, they will actually demonstrate that they have the ability to command the full features and functionality of Microsoft Office, which in turn, as Yasminka has mentioned, will greatly increase their productivity when they're in the workplace. So, it's not just technology companies that students need to want to work for, and they need to have a real interest in technology to do these certifications. Many companies, many businesses all over the world in different industries use Microsoft Office. So having these Office skills is really essential. These days, they can be working in any range of roles, from a receptionist to an accountant, or to an IT administrator as well. So having these skills are often overlooked at a school level and even a university level, but then by the time you get into the workplace, you're expected to know how to do a mail merge in Outlook, or how to draw up a spreadsheet in Excel. So it's really important that students go through that structured learning path, so that they don't struggle with these key skills whenever they get into the workforce. So each of the products that are shown there then are standalone certifications. So students can either do one certification in Word or Excel, or they can do 3, or they can do 4. If students do the 3 certifications, they will then get the Microsoft Office Specialist title, the nice certification then that you can see up in the left-hand corner of that screen there. As well as being industry recognised, we also have some state recognition here in Australia. So if you are in Queensland or Western Australia, students can get points towards their high school certificate, so QCA points in Queensland and then the WAIS in Western Australia as well. In the other states, we are working, closely with them to get recognition. But just because a state doesn't have recognition doesn't mean you shouldn't offer these to your students as really a value add. And these skills are transferable, they're in-demand skills, and they'll stick by them, for as long as they're in the workforce. So guided learning hours for the MOS exams is roughly around 15 hours per module. So, 15 hours for Word, 15 hours for Excel. And it is the expectation as well then that students do extra work outside this. So usually in one school year, you can fit in 3 certifications. So one in term 1, term 2 and term 3, and then leave term 4 for any repeats that may need to happen, or if any students want to be brave and go for the expert level exams as well. And there is an option to take these exams online, but they must be taken in a proctored exam conditions environment that your school will be set up as. Once you purchase the certification exam pack. And it's been really amazing to see over the last few months, in Australia in particular has done the most exams than in other markets, which is it's great to see these skills that Australians are even gaining through the current situation. So as we progress up the triangle, then the level of difficulty obviously increases. And as mentioned, the productivity one is our most popular program. If we look at the right hand side here, then IT professionals and developers, this is more specific to the IT industry or students at that university level as well. The MTA exams that you can see on the right hand side, so Microsoft Technology Associate, those can be done at a high school level as well, but they are longer and tougher courses. So, just keep that in mind when you're planning it into the year. So next slide there, Yasmin. So how do your students actually gain these Microsoft certification and what is involved for them? And that's where this 4-stage learning pathway comes in. So the students will obviously want to be at step 4 and get their certification exam, and then everything before that, so steps 1 to 3, is them preparing for that final exam. So step 1 here you can see is the skills analysis. So what students do is they take a quick test, and it actually measures their strengths and weaknesses on that particular product. So let's use Word for an example. It will give them, what they're maybe really good at in Word and then what they're not so good at, so that they know whenever they're going to do the learning that they need to focus on these certain areas. The learning solutions then are really, really great. They're in-depth videos. So I'll show you a snapshot of those next. But basically they're self-led and self-paced. Students can go through them, as they please. And then when they've done all of the learning, they can go and sit the official practice tests then. So once they've done, all of the preparation, all of the revision, these practice tests are really, really, really good. They're going to set them up to really pass that certification exam. They are the official practice tests, so it'll really give the students an idea of, this is how long I'm going to have in the exam, and these are the buttons, this is the taskbar, and everything like that. So really good to have those practice tests. Next slide. So this is a screenshot then from the video learning resources, so step 2 on the learning path. And as you can see there, we have instructive videos. So we actually have someone bringing the students through how to complete tasks in Microsoft Word. So they'll show them exactly what button to press to insert a table or do a mail merge. And those videos are linked up to the final exam. So if you go online and search, the MOS Word exam objectives, you'll notice that they're exactly the video titles and all of the video lessons. So they're really comprehensive. And there's interactive labs as well, pre and post chapter assessments, which can kind of be used as a benchmark for the student to, once they've done a section, go through and do a post assessment, and then they'll be able to see how much they've actually improved, and they can go back and tailor the learning again. And then just next slide. And then this is the MOS practice test. So you can see here that Word is actually opened, and then we have the question bar down at the bottom. So all of the MOS exams are what we call live in the application, and basically what that means is, you know, the students actually in Microsoft Word completing their tasks. So it's really hands-on, it's really practical, and it's interesting for the students because they're actually remembering, oh yes, I learned this, so this is exactly how I do it. And they have nice projects to complete. So, you know, this one's cabins, and they might be an app developer and they have to create a flyer, promotional flyer. So they're really interesting for the students. And there is 2 different modes of practice tests, so testing mode and training mode. Testing mode is obviously, you know, like a mock exam, a real simulation. It will test them, it will give them a countdown timer, and they're really on the clock to get that finished. Whereas training mode then will give them help. It's kind of like an exercise lab, so both really useful ones to use. Next slide. And then this is the actual exam. So I did mention that, you know, the practice test will really set the students up to pass that final certification exam. And you can see here, you know, why that would be. It's exactly the same layout. It's maybe just a few different colors. We have the timer in the same place. We have Microsoft Excel here open live in the application. And then we have the different projects that the student needs to complete to actually go through and finish that exam. Next slide. So when the students actually pass a Microsoft certification, they will get an official badge from Microsoft, and they can add this not only to their CV but to their social channels. So Yasminka mentioned their LinkedIn, which is, you know, a really popular one in terms of employment opportunities, and they can share this to their LinkedIn profile, and then recruiters can actually reach out to them as well as they search their own job opportunities. And because the digital badge is live, recruiters can actually click onto that badge and see, you know, that they have done this structured learning path, and they know that, you know, they know the skills that employers actually want and need. Next slide. So the digital badge also lives on a website called Acclaim, that the student has access to forever. So even when they leave school, they can log on and see and view their digital badge and get a list of the current job openings that are requiring them to have those Microsoft skills that they have gained. And this platform really gives them access to employers that recognise the importance of having the certifications, and only those who have done the certifications programme and have gained the badge will have access to these job openings. So, you know, it's really a value add to the student to have these digital badges as well. Next slide. So, you know, it really is simple to get set up, and it's not too late for 2020 as well. You know, we can get you set up before the end of this term for successful start to next year as well. So, you know, once you purchase the certification exam pack, once we figure out what one is best for you and your students, we will work with you to get you set up as a verified testing centre. And then we will bring you through the full onboarding experience. So, you know, give you a really in-depth demonstration of how to use all of the products, and go through that 4-stage learning pathway as well, and work with you to figure out what is going to be the best way for your students to gain the certification, because we really want them to pass, you know, as much as you do. So we'll work with you to suit your timetable and needs as well. And then once you're ready, you can start beginning to deliver MOS and certify your students. And it's really that simple. So I will hand back over to Yasminka, and if anyone has any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them at the end as well.
Thank you, Emma. That was really clear and concise, and I hope helpful to anyone in our audience who's looking for an easy and effective way to get started. So the Prodigy Learning Solution is definitely the tightest and sort of most proven approach to embedding Microsoft skills and certifications into courses. But if you do wish to teach these courses yourself, we do have Microsoft Imagine Academy, which contains all of the Microsoft official curriculum that ladders up to all of our certifications. Access requires a key that is usually in the possession of your IT lead if you're part of an enterprise agreement with Microsoft. And although the certification vouchers would still be supplied through Prodigy, you do have this option of self-serve in terms of curriculum. So I just wanted you to know that there are a host of curriculum and learning pathways and certifications in there, but if you're looking for productivity, that's another place for you to access. I also wanted you to be aware of a relatively new resource we've developed called MS Learn. Here you're going to find hundreds of free and open self-paced courses and learning pathways for all of our foundations and role-based certifications, as well as hundreds of modules that can help fine-tune digital skills, provide access to interactive labs, sample code, free test drive products. There are no productivity learning paths in MS Learn. They are in the Prodigy solution and in Microsoft Imagine Academy. But if you do have students who are interested in cloud and IT skills, this is an excellent place to send them. MS Learn is also a very big part of our Global Skills Initiative, which you may have heard of. We launched recently to help displaced workers and anyone looking to reskill throughout the pandemic. I've asked my colleague Beth Worrell, who is our National Skills Lead, to speak to you about this today, because there are some terrific resources in MS Learn and as part of this initiative that have been made free that could be of benefit to all students, secondary students in particular, right now as they're starting to think about their transition to higher education or work. Beth will also share with you a groundbreaking program called the Microsoft Traineeship program, developed in partnership actually with Prodigy Learning, TAFE and MEGT, which offers an alternative pathway to employment, also highly relevant for secondary students. So with that, Beth, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Yasminka, and I'm joining you from Ghana country down here in South Australia. So before I get started, I'd just like to pay my respects to elders past, present and future. It's a pleasure to talk to you today about the Microsoft Traineeship program to start with. This program, if we could move to the next slide, this program launched with our first cohort in Sydney in 2019. And I think we had about 40 or so trainees join that program. Since then, we've risen to 140 trainees around the country. So the program is now operating in Sydney, so New South Wales, as well as Queensland, ACT, Victoria, South Australia and Western Australia. And as Yasminka said, it's a program that is designed to support predominantly young people, but also older people looking to reskill and re-enter the workforce and get their first entry-level role in the IT industry. So we've worked very closely with Prodigy Learning and various TAFE organisations across the country to build out a very specific curriculum. But the most important thing, I think, is that this is a paid traineeship. So people get an actual paid job as they learn. There's no HECS debt. It's an opportunity to blend academic qualifications as well as practical on-the-job experience. So to date, as I said, we've got 140 trainees placed with 60 different organisations. If we could go to the next slide, Yasminka, we've got the majority of the trainees, or the biggest employer of our trainees is actually ANZ Bank, who have 17 trainees in Sydney and Melbourne. But we're working with small and large organisations, and this is a fantastic program for school leavers who are interested in an IT career and may be open to vocational education. We are certainly looking to promote and align ourselves to the new federal government incentive that you may have been aware of that was recently advertised to encourage organisations to employ trainees. The federal government will be providing 50% of the salary of trainees, capped at the first 100,000 trainees that are registered. And so we hope that this is a real catalyst for many more hundreds of traineeship jobs being unlocked for people here in Australia. We are actively recruiting for this program at the moment. Students don't need to necessarily have any prior experience, but we are looking for people who have a real passion for IT. There's a digital skills test that we use to determine people for whom they will be, it will be possible for them to enter into a Cert 4 in IT. But we're trying to screen in as many people as we possibly can. We're also on the lookout for students who are particularly going to help us increase the diversity of the IT workforce. So as part of our recruitment efforts, we've been primarily looking to encourage people from underrepresented demographics in the IT industry. So that includes women, people with disabilities, people from lower socioeconomic areas, and people from non-English speaking backgrounds, as well as Indigenous people. So for more information about that program, just you can look up, you can use Bing, in fact, Microsoft Traineeship program. If you go to our recruitment partner, MEGT, you'll find a link that will take you directly to the place that young people need to access in order to apply. The youngest trainee we have at the moment is 16 years old, but we are looking at primarily recruiting school leavers for the program. So if we could go to the next slide, please, Yasminka. What I wanted to talk to you also about is a program that was launched in the US on the 30th of June, which is a global skills initiative and a collaboration between Microsoft, LinkedIn and GitHub. If we can go to the next slide. As Yasminka said, we've seen 2 months of digital transformation in just 2 years of digital transformation in just 2 months. And so this has been a big catalyst for obviously a lot of jobs being lost from the economy, but the jobs that are coming back are jobs that require more digital skills than ever before. And so as a result, and in response to this issue around the world, Microsoft and LinkedIn and GitHub have created a set of learning materials that are free and available to anyone who is interested in upskilling or reskilling into a new career. And I think it would have some strong relevance to school leavers who are interested in obtaining particular skills as they start to prepare or think about their next steps into a career. The ambition that we have is to reach 25 million people worldwide by the end of March. In Australia, we're aiming to try and reach 500,000 job seekers here in Australia. We're halfway there. We've reached 250,000 people in Australia so far. So if there's anything that we could do to promote these resources to your students in an effort to help prepare them for what we know will be perhaps the worst employment market for many years, we would love to be able to play a part in helping your students with this process. If we could go to the next slide. So what we've done in Australia is take the global resources available as part of this initiative and localised it into one single place on our Australian website. So in addition to the global resources, we've provided some additional career content that is relevant to Australians, as well as some career case studies for people working in particular industries that may be of interest to your students as they start to consider the types of jobs that they might be interested in. Next slide, please. The curriculum starts with a basic digital literacy set of materials, which I think is from memory about 9 hours long, and it covers learning on the assumption that not everyone will have had the opportunity to have access or use computers. I'd imagine that most of your students have had that opportunity, but for those that haven't, or those that do need to look at the more basic digital literacy courses, this is a fantastic course to look into. It can be delivered in an online fashion as well for students who need that type of resource, and anyone completing this course can obtain a certification of completion that they can then promote on their CV. Next slide, please. Then there are resources that are available in an online fashion. The digital fluency and productivity course is quite a significant and intensive course that supports people to obtain skills relating to Microsoft Office, Excel, PowerPoint and the like. But there are also some really valuable tools and learning courses that people can undertake to familiarise themselves with using tools like Microsoft Teams, Zoom and WebEx. So for anyone looking at that virtual collaboration, this is a fantastic course. In terms of getting access to this course and all of the other courses that I'm going to touch on now, it is freely available. You don't need a LinkedIn account to get access to the course, but should you be over the age of 16 and be interested in setting up a free LinkedIn account, you can do so and then earn a badge of completion on completing these courses. It's also really valuable to take a look through some of these courses and perhaps cherry pick some of the elements of the course that you feel might be the most relevant for your students. There's no need to do the courses and complete them in their entirety. Next course, please. Next slide, please. The soft skills course is super helpful for any young people who are considering moving into office-based work straight away, and it really covers a lot of the soft skills that you might need in making that transition into a workplace environment. And again, perhaps there are some elements here that your students might find of interest as opposed to doing the whole course. Next slide, please. There is also some really helpful advice that LinkedIn are making available to job seekers at the moment that covers interview tips and tricks, CV writing tips and tricks, but also some advice about how you actually do virtual job interviews should that need arise, as well as some really practical advice around how you find a job when economic conditions are so tough. Next slide, please. And I guess the jewel in the crown of these learning materials are the 10 job paths that have been unlocked as part of the initiative. Microsoft and LinkedIn did significant amounts of research to identify the types of jobs that would be the most relevant and useful to make available at this current point in time. So the 10 jobs that have been identified on the basis of showing quite strong growth in all of the markets in which we operate. They're jobs that people can legitimately reskill for by doing an online course. So you don't necessarily have to have a university degree or a TAFE qualification to do. They are jobs that have, to some extent, some future proof element in relation to their being sustained over a period of time. And finally, and this is really important, they're jobs that will pay a living decent wage to people. So these jobs that have been identified are, yes, Minka, if you could move forward, these 10 jobs here. And so these 10 job learning pathways are all available on the link that was shared earlier. We don't have time today to unpack all of the different learning associated with the 10 job pathways, but we can arrange further briefing sessions for your students or your teachers if that is of interest. The learning pathways range from about 5 hours for a customer service type learning pathway all the way through to about 30 hours for some of the more technical courses around software development, graphic design and IT administration. But the courses here are incredibly valuable pieces of learning. They at LinkedIn have developed these courses with input and insight and contributions from leaders right around the world. And so this is really, really valuable resource to share with students who might consider or be open to learning a bit more about the different types of jobs, different kinds of career pathways that might be accessible to them. Also, students could undertake these courses, obtain a badge of completion, again, if they have a LinkedIn account, and be in a position to be competitive in a job market that we know is going to be really hard for them. So again, this is a philanthropic initiative that Microsoft has put out there to the world as part of a collaboration with LinkedIn and GitHub. We can arrange a further and more detailed briefing for you, but I hope that you find it useful, and we're really keen to reach another 250,000 Australians who might need these skills resources to find work going forward. So thank you for your time today, and I'll hand back to Yasminka.
Thank you so much, Beth. I too hope that this audience can take this back and take advantage of it. Just so many great resources. Stephen, who's been monitoring the Q&A, has been adding links as we've been speaking. So hopefully you've been able to copy links that are of interest to you and take a closer look after the session. Before we move to Q&A, I wanted to leave you with some information about Imagine Cup Junior, as I'd mentioned earlier. You may have previously known this as AI for Good here in Australia. It's now become a global challenge across all of Microsoft, and we're thrilled to be running it here again in Australia. Earlier this year, in its AI for Good form, we had over 650 submissions from students ranging from years 7 to 12, and they've come up with just some of the most amazing ideas for using AI to solve some of the biggest problems facing us all. The winners are going to be announced in November, but I did want to flag that we'll be relaunching the Imagine Cup Junior here in December, and it will really start heating up when school heads back next year. So please do keep an eye out for more information, because it really is one of the most exciting ways to engage students in STEM and AI. We provide lesson plans, hackathons, and of course prizes and recognition for winners. So definitely not to be missed. So with that, that's the end of our presentation. Stephen, I think we've got a few minutes left for Q&A, so if there are any questions that we can answer, we would love to do that.
Hi, there's nothing outstanding at the moment, but let's hang around for 30 seconds. And I'll just remind people that this presentation will be up on YouTube next week, and we'll be sending out the slides and all the links in a follow-up email.
That's great. Well, thank you for joining. We hope it's been of value. And please be sure to join the closing event, which starts shortly. Opportunities, I believe, to win prizes and Microsoft merch. Please do stay up to date with us via all of our social channels. Join the Microsoft Educator Centre if you haven't already. And please just stay connected with us. We are frequently launching new initiatives that will be of value to you. And most of all, most importantly, stay well. And thank you.
Thanks, everyone.